In our last program, we finished the button called Q&A Records. That was this guy over here. The next button we'll take care of is the Delete button. Let me move the program out of the way. And that's this guy right here. So we call the button function, tell it to put the button into the root window. The text on it will say delete. The width of the button is 10 units. And the command to be executed when anybody clicks on that button is the DELE under command, which is a function defined up above. Assign all of that to B2, button 2. Now we tell button 2 to put itself into the grid at row 1 in column 0. So there's row 0, there's row 1, and this is column 0. So it did it. Now let's go over to the delete under command function. Let's take a look at this guy. As a quick refresher on the program, this box here, this text box here, is referred to as E1. Let me clear that off and key in E1. This box over here is referred to as E2, date entry 2. And down here, this is Listbox 1, LB1. So the first command we encounter in the delete under command function is an if statement. Let's go right to the middle. Take E1, get everything out of that box from the beginning to the end. So now it's got everything. Compare that to this character. Now if you compare the contents of E1 to this character, and they're the same, that means that your text box is empty. If all that it has in it is this, it's empty. Compare that to this. Is it true? Well, if you've got data inside of it, for example, I click on this E1 now is not empty. It's got other data inside of this. So this becomes a false. Not false is true. If true, then do all of this. The logic behind that is if you have data in here that is deletable, then proceed with the delete command. Now we have here WAP in a router is a what? Wireless router. What's this record? This record has 3 parts. 14, that's the 0th part. WAP in a router is a what? That's the 1th part. And wireless router, that's the 2th part. 0, 1, and 2. Now, first thing I do here is I take the integer of TT, the 0th part. What is that TT? Let's go and find out what this TT is, where it is originally. There are 2 functions we have to look at to understand that TT variable. First, we come to the bind function. Now, whenever anybody selects anything out of the list box, I'm going to tell Listbox1 to bind that selection to the function called GDR, get the record. So GDR knows what was just selected out of the list box. So let's now go take a look at the GDR function. So I go to the GDR function, which is get the record. And immediately I see the statement global TT. That's our target tuple. I tell the system, Listbox1, your current selection, the 0th element, grab that and assign that to your ID. Well, let's grab our database table over here. And record 14 now says Kim Jong-un, wireless router inventor. So I click on this and let's see what happens. Kim Jong-un goes here. The wireless router inventor goes here. This is the 0th, 1th, and 2th part of this record. Let's move this over now, see what's going on. Remember, we're trying to find out what TT is here. So, Listbox current selection, that's this guy, highlight it. Grab the 0th element, that's the 14. assign that to UID. Print that in the background so I can be certain. Then I have a comment. Listbox 1's current selection 0th element is the order number in the database and in the listbox. Listbox 1, get the record associated with UID and assign that to the variable TT. So he grabs this record and he assigns this record to the variable TT, the tuple. Let's skip past all of this comment. And then what happens? Now this is just get the record, remember. He deletes at E1. Now let's put another record in there. Now when I click on Kim Jong-un again, record 14, watch what happens. E1 will delete out everything from the beginning to the end, and then E1 will insert at the end part of E1, which will now be blank after it deletes it, TT's 1th element. So in TT will be a 0th, 1th, and 2th element. 0, 1, and 2th element. It's going to put the 1th element into E1 here. He's going to put the 2th element into here, E2. Well, I'm jumping the gun now. So E2, delete out everything from the beginning to the end, and then E2, insert into yourself at the end, TT, the tuple, the 2th element. And that will be this guy, wireless router inventor, 0, 1, and 2. Here we go, I click on it. And it goes in just as we specified. Kim Jong-un is the 1th element. Wireless router inventor is the 2th element. The 1th and 2th element go into E1 and E2 respectively, while TT contains the entire record, the 0th, 1th, and 2th part of that record. Now let's go back to our delete command. Again at the beginning, if you've got data in there, then this is deletable. That's what this statement is saying. Now we're going to delete this guy. How do we do that? We start off like this. I want to take TT0, the 0th element, that will be the 14 here, make an integer out of it, and assign that to x1. Now go to the delete function that is in the Z backend file and pass it x1, which is the identifying primary key number, 14. Let's go there now and see what the delete function does with x1. Here is the delete function in the zbe.py file. A moment ago we called the delete function in the zbe file and we passed it x1. Let's see what he does with that now. The zbe's delete function catches the x1 variable in the memory ID variable and immediately tells SQLite 3 to connect to the questions database and assign that connection to Con. It then tells Con to create the cursor. That's a scratchpad where it puts all of its records whenever you do a select statement, and assign the management of that cursor to the variable CUR. Now I tell cur to execute the following SQL statement. Delete from the Q table, the query table, inside of questions.db, where what condition exists, where ID equals, see that question mark here? That gets filled with MID. Comes right over here, puts it right there, where ID equals 14. So he will delete from the Q table where ID equals 14. Done. Commit those changes to the disk. Write the changes to the disk. Close the connection. And it's done. Now we return to the point of departure in ZFE. The record has been deleted. We're back in ZFE, and now this statement is finished. But E1 and E2 still have that data inside. So we want to delete that data. that says Kim Jong-un and wireless inventor. It's already been deleted from the database, but not from these two text boxes, E1 and E2. So I tell E1 that starting at the beginning all the way to the end, delete everything. E2, the same thing. I want you to delete out everything starting from the beginning to the end. So now the E1 and E2 text boxes are clear. The next thing that I do is I tell Listbox 1 to delete out everything starting from the beginning to the end. Notice the way in which both of these structures specify the beginning and end. Notice how they specify everything. It's a little bit different. Here, beginning is a string, and it's 1.0. Here, it's an integer, 0. So Listbox 1 delete out everything from the beginning to the end. Then it executes the view command, which we covered already, which goes into the database table and extracts out all of the records and puts them into the list box. That's what happens when you execute the delete command, which is triggered by clicking on that delete button. So let's actually watch this get done. I've selected Kim Jong-un, wireless router inventor. This is a record we don't really need. So I'm going to click on this guy and then delete. Deletes him from the table, clears this off, and executes the view under command, which is the Q&A records button. And record 14 is now gone. In the next video, we'll cover the add records button. If you find this video useful and practical, please click on the like and share button. This is George Bull. Bye-bye now.